So, we meet again, Mr. Fancy Pants. Now it's my turn to capture the world. First, Little Muu, then the rest of the planets. But I can pull it off too, because I got the biggest, baddest sidekick in the whole galaxy. Meet my new associate.
Oh, but we've met, haven't we, Bunny?
Well, this is gonna be just like old times. Us simply going against Baron Aloha again on some mad plan to rip apart. This time he's doing it to his own world of Planet Little Muu. He must really hate Robbit that much if he's willing to destroy his own planet just so he could put Robbit for some sort of obstacle course thing. Oh, this is Ray Phoenix here. Welcome to Let's Play Jumping Flash 2 Part 4. So our suspicions about Baron Aloha were correct. He actually is the evil mastermind behind this entire plot. I wouldn't be surprised if this was all him right from the beginning. Maybe he secretly choreographed for Captain Kabuki to do exactly what he did in the first part of this game. Was he secretly working with Kabuki all the time? I doubt it. It's probably just a coincidence that he met Kabuki and just helped aid his plan. See, his statue looks different, the levels are designed kind of differently. It's playing the same music again that reminds me of the Palm Tree Panic from Sonic CD. So we're walking around the beach resort again, this Planet Little Muu beach resort yet again. I know you can jump on things, of course, as usual. The kiwis are now like pink now. The sky looks kind of pinkish too. It almost looks like, I don't know, it almost looks hazy, like the kind of thing you would look at while you're playing the very, very original version of the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Knows, which wasn't actually released until 1996, the same year this game came out. So now we're in yet another bonus stage, another obligatory bonus stage. Will I win this one, or will I won't? I don't know. We'll find out in less than 60 seconds, because that's how much time I'm given to do these bonus stages, where I just run around like a madman with a gun and shoot stuff up. I think Robbit would make an awesome war machine. Imagine if they actually did that in real life, actually built robot rabbits and actually used them for war, for acts of war, for something like that. That actually sounds like a pretty good idea. I think this camp would have a good idea for something that could be one of my, Phoenix First adventures. Phoenix First Studios is still doing really well. I have a lot of people supporting me now, supporting my comics and my works of art. I have a lot of fans as well, too. From all over the world that all like and support me, so I thank each and every one of my fans for helping me so much. You might also notice too in this game now the Robbit sidekick looks different now. He has a different voice now and he looks different now. He looks more bear-like. He does look like a downright teddy bear. It almost looks like something Mr. Bean would own. And yet he has like a shiny luster to him too, makes him all look almost like a popsicle, almost like an orange popsicle or an orange, I don't know, I don't want to get sued by any company for promoting their product or something like that, but it does look like popsicle-like or something like that. and Baron Aloha is that strict about destroying Robbit. He's even willing to sacrifice his own Muumuus. They're still rescuing Muumuus, even though Captain Kabuki's been defeated the first time around and the Muumuus are technically safe. They're not safe anymore because Baron Aloha apparently wants to destroy the Muumuus. He wants to commit genocide against his own people. So now we have to rescue them. You're probably thinking that Baron Aloha is indeed a real madman right now. He's the definition of a madman. Well, they don't call him a mad scientist for nothing. He was well established as being a mad scientist from the very first game when we first met him.
Baron Aloha, a black shadow threatening the safety of peaceful worlds. An evil scientist who frightens children and is bent on slavery.
Right, beginning Baron Aloha, a mad scientist threatening safety of peaceful worlds, an evil shadow that for scientists I know that frightens children and is bent on slavery. Okay, so it was told to us right at the beginning of the very first Jumping Flash that that's what would happen. It was told to us right at the beginning of the very first Jumping Flash that that's what happened, so I guess it kind of does make sense in this respect, that, that he would, turn to this, or that he would, he would do stuff like this, of course. And so now we have all the 4 Muumuus. We can go to the exit, as you can see right there. Yep, we hit the exit now. We're just gonna do this, give us the same, we always get. We get a lot of score for this. And of course, because we've had to, pretty much start a new game, it's like 2 games in one's a new game, so our score is back down to 0, and our lives are back at the default of 3, which it's not going to stay there very long at all, because I'm going to be, winning more lives, if it isn't obvious. They actually did a lot more of extra mode in this game than the first Jumping Flash, and the first Jumping Flash is made more like World 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They didn't call it that though, but that's kind of what it seemed like. It's like expansions, like just harder versions of the first worlds from the first 6 worlds of the game. This time around, they actually made them very different. Sure, it's the same kind of idea. They actually did a lot more this time around because they actually made the levels significantly larger. They rearranged everything. They significantly rearranged everything. Made it look slightly more demonic and slightly more evil, like some sort of a natural disaster. Well, not a natural disaster because it's Baron Aloha, but still like some major disastrous event happened. And the bosses are actually a lot more unique this time around. They actually did change the bosses. In the first game, they didn't really change the bosses at all in the XCOM. It's the exact same boss fights over and over again, but this time around, they actually put more effort into it this time around. It actually gave us the same bosses. They're actually rearranged to be different. This almost is like 2 games in one, almost like 2 stories in one game. This game has 2 stories kind of thing. It does seem like that. This game actually does have a really good story overall. Actually, it probably does. Story-wise, this game has a way better story than the original Jumping Flash, like I said before. This game probably has the best story in the Jumping Flash series ever. This is actually the most effort and detail we'll ever see in the Jumping Flash story or anything of that matters. This Jumping Flash 3 barely has any real story at all. That game was in Japanese and I knew exactly what it meant. And so this does look a lot like Florida. It'd be more realistic if they actually put the kind of weirdos we see in Florida in real life. Some people say that Florida is not Florida is not a state, it's a science experiment. I guess that's why Baron Aloha likes making his place look like Florida. He's probably from Florida originally, which is why his place looks so much like Florida. It kind of makes sense actually in that way. Florida's a breeding ground for all sorts of weirdos and freaks. That's why I'm interested in going to Florida eventually. I love to just walk around the street and just film what happens and watch all the crazy freaks duke it out and stuff like that, like an anime-style battle where they're all fighting just because someone cut someone off or someone was driving their car 1 notch under or below above the speed limit. So this time around, this boss is even harder now, because we have to aim our weapon at the boss now, and it's hard to do that because I'm playing this on a keyboard, so it's almost impossible. Some games are even downright impossible to play in RetroArch with a keyboard. The Twisted Metal games, because they make use of the R2 and L2 buttons, and RetroArch doesn't seem to be able to, work with those on just the default settings. You have to set it, and even then it can only support so many buttons, which is kind of dumb, because the computer keyboard has enough keys to, fully emulate a PS1 controller. I mean, EPSXE could do that, and everyone seems to crap on EPSXE these days. I'll admit, EPSXE is not the best emulator, but what else am I going to do for playing the Twisted Metal games, I think? And other odd PS1 games that require all 4 shoulder buttons, which having 4 shoulder buttons I think was a little bit unnecessary. I mean, I really like the PS1 controller. It's one of the best controllers ever made. But it was a bit unnecessary they put 4 shoulder buttons. Do we really need 4 shoulder buttons? They supposedly did that to please fans of fighting games, but since when did fighting games ever make use of shoulder buttons? Last time I checked, fighting games use 6 buttons or 5 buttons, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat on the actual arcade machines, and then they tried bringing that to the Genesis and they made it look like that. Last time I checked, that's what fighting games were like, not...
So, now the Baron's back to his old ways.
Why do you think they call him mad?
If you live in North America, that's the first time you've ever have seen that Moo Moo Cafe. They're using, because just like in the original Jumping Flash, only in the Japanese and European versions of the game, they actually have cutscenes in between the worlds where it shows the stuff at the cafe. But now they added them in this game, and they put them in the this is the North American version of the game. I'm pretty sure I made that clear. This is the North American version. We're just playing an all-so-glorious 30 frames per second. Well, it's not going to be 30 frames per second. I have to decrease the frame rate drastically so the file sizes won't be as big, so it'll be easier to store them in places. But as I'm playing this game, it's playing at the full 30 frames per second, I'm pretty sure, which is how many frames things are supposed to be in North America. Even though I'm not playing this game in North America, I'm actually playing this game in Australia right now, which is his pal. But it's a North American computer, a North American system, so I don't think anyone really cares about that. Who's gonna go after me? The NTSC police or the region encoding police or whoever? I don't even know how they enforce something like that, because it involves countries all over the world. Who's gonna do anything about it? Are they gonna actually send the, region police after me? And so this is the other obligatory stage. It still reminds me of that Balloon Blast game, or Balloon Burst, whatever it was called, that I played on that. And I got on that MP3 player. This is some MP3 player my father gave me in 2008 that had a bunch of games loaded on that you could play on your PC. They're PC games that you could install on your PC. Also had a demo for the original LEGO Racers on it. I eventually bought LEGO Racers years later on the N64, which is pretty much the same as the PC version, more or less. The N64 had very smooth graphics. It was very smooth and very sleek overall in terms of graphics. A lot of I'm sure PS1 games get bashed a lot for having blocky textury, blocky, jagged details. But there actually are some PS1 games that have really good, smooth graphics. Some people say this game looks like a 3DS NES game, but I disagree with that. This is way better than any SNES could have ever produced. PS1 was way better than the SNES. Sure, I may never have had an SNES for. It's the one system I've always wanted but never got. But I'm actually thankful that I got a PS1 instead. I mean, it is a good system, but I like PS1 a lot more, and I like Sega Genesis a lot more too. I like those a lot more than the SNES, the SNES. The SNES is still a really good powerhouse of system. Quite possibly last time we actually saw Nintendo being the powerhouse that it is. And of course there's Baron Aloha's mug again in this game, so you always have to see it in every single level of this game. And this level looks like all those fan things we were saying. Also, it looks like one of the backgrounds from Luminous Plus. I've been playing Luminous Plus a lot because I got the RetroArch on Android, and just using the on-screen controls, Luminous Plus is actually, for the PSP, it's actually a fairly easy game to play on a phone, considering it's so much like Tetris. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if that game was intended to be played on a phone all this time, because in games like that, mobile games typically are like simpler games like that. You don't even see very many games like that on consoles anymore. People say, why play it on a console, and I could just simply play it on my phone. Yeah, I kind of get that, but then again, what does it matter to me? I don't really play new console games much anymore. I've been playing Jumping Flash 2 for like a decade and a half, and probably just as long as I've been playing the original Jumping Flash, and to this day, I'm still overly entertained by these classic games. There's so many classic games, the market has been so saturated now that you could probably just play any classic game. You just live off classic games and never desire another game. That's exactly what I'm like. I don't think I'll ever be buying any new games anytime soon. My collection is already pretty dang full as is. My DVD collection is still pretty full too. There's still quite a bunch of movies I want to see as well too. I recently discovered this movie called The Crush that I want to watch. Apparently it's like similar to that movie that episode of Dexter's Laboratory, Eyes. But this movie, The Crush, it's like very rare and obscure. It must be rare and obscure because it's not on YouTube Movies. It's not on any movie streaming service or anything like that I can find. So how am I going to watch it? It's like that rare Christopher Reeve movie I wanted to watch called Beyond Suspicion. I think it was called, or Above Suspicion. I keep forgetting what it was called. I think it was Above Suspicion or something like that. It's some weird, eerie movie that Christopher Reeve was in 1995 where he ends up in a wheelchair and he's a cop that ends up in a wheelchair after some accident, and less than a week after that movie came out, Christopher Reeve ended up in a wheelchair for real. Yeah, that was a pretty uncanny movie. My grandma always believed in like voodoo curse, things like that, where he's like, ooh, don't act in a movie like that, or it could happen for real. What does she know about curses? About these odd voodoo curses and these odd things that some people think could be, but again, I don't really know what to say much about that. But we're collecting Moomoo's again, yet another dojo of a maze. We're just walking on this dojo maze. There's those things, I think, that multiply. And there's a spire. These are all the same enemies again. I think it would be more interesting if they actually did, try to, maybe even displace enemies from other parts of the game. Or take enemies from other parts of the game. Here, imagine you had to go against those plant things in the first Jumping Flash in this level. They're actually really pretty challenging, because we saw those, and even though they don't move, they are pretty fierce. You can't really jump on them, and they do shoot stuff at you. Or they could have put those poisonous frogs we'll see in the Pre-Dash 2 level in this level as well. Imagine they did that, just threw a bunch of random enemies into one level and just had them come after us all at once. So it's like a huge enemy fest, like a huge arena of enemies. If they ever do make more Jumping Flash games, they should put some extra modes of play into the game. They could do stuff like that. Almost like a survival game, like just fight against enemies and see how long you can survive without getting killed. That actually does sound like a pretty good idea for a future Jumping Flash game. If no one's gonna make any more Jumping Flash games, then I want to make more Jumping Flash games. Sure, I don't have the rights to the Jumping Flash IP, obviously, but I'm sure I can do something. Maybe I can make my own rip-off of Jumping Flash, but make it better than Jumping Flash, or rip-off ends up becoming better than the original thing. I wonder if there are any rip-offs out there that are better than the original thing. In fact, I have no idea if they are, because rip-offs are almost always made by petty people that always wish they could have made the original thing. Obviously, people consider Bubsy Bobcat to have been a rip-off of Sonic. It's just the guy that made Bubsy Bobcat loved Sonic so much that he probably wished he could have created Sonic. Dang, why couldn't that have been mine? Why couldn't I have thought of that first? Why couldn't I have made that first? That's probably what he was thinking. what were they thinking? What the AVGN always says. Yeah, that's probably because they're probably thinking that I wish that could have been mine. I wish I could have been the greatest game creator ever made or something like that. Yeah, she's pretty good, yeah. I guess it's another thing to add to my list of like computer-related, like programming development projects that I probably make throughout the course of my lifetime. It's a bunch of stuff that's probably never going to get done, because it's hard to make a game, especially a 3D game like this. It's really hard to do that all by myself, all alone, all by myself. I would really need a programming team, a design team, and stuff like that. And it's hard for one person like me to, possibly achieve all that, to possibly, do to get all that set up and stuff like that, all the whole production team. I mean, if people want to contribute with me to this, I mean, I'm sure Beyond Unlimited was interested in making video games, so I'm sure they might want to make a game like this. Maybe have it be based off Beyond Unlimited properties, and that sounds like a pretty good idea. Maybe if anyone from Beyond Unlimited is watching this, they would like to, take my idea into account. So now we're fighting against that samurai again. This time he looks a lot more. He doesn't really look like a traditional Japanese warrior this time around. He looks more like an industrial Iron Man or something like that. He just looks like frickin' Iron Man, the very original Iron Man that got blown to bits in Vietnam or something like that. So they had to rebuild him into some robot fighting thing. But then, apparently in future comics or later comics or recent comics, they changed it so it happened in Afghanistan instead to make it more relevant in time. Because Iron Man's been around for a long time. Same with a lot of those other Marvel superheroes. They've been around for so long, it's like, how do they age? Are they still the same after all these years? Do they change? I think one comic explained that one mutant from X-Men was responsible for that, but I don't know if that's fully canon. And again, what is canon anyways? None of the stuff in those comics ever happened in real life anyways, so what does it matter to us? I've been reading The Phantom a lot lately too. Recently discovered The Phantom. He's a pretty good superhero, and his excuse for lasting so long is that it's like a monarchy or a dynasty. One of them dies and is replaced with his son. His son takes over kind of thing as the Phantom. I mostly knew about The Phantom. He had a cameo in the Beatles' Yellow Submarine movie somewhat close to the beginning of the movie at the Beatles' place. So now it's the end of World 2, so we're gonna go against another cutscene. We're gonna be faced with another cutscene this time around.
Why does the Baron hate Robert so much?
Who cares? Pass me another root beer fizzy.
So now we're on our way to World 3, and again, it's going to be the same stuff as we always seen before, but of course, there's going to be something different. It's the same, but different. This is Ray Phoenix, signing out.